What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie J. Kelly. Here's a quick synopsis. Famed movie star J. Kelly has a number of personal crises that makes him begin to look back on his life choices. The film stars George Clooney, Adam Sandler, Laura Dern, Emily Mortimer, Billy Crudup, Grace Edwards, Riley Keough, and Patrick Wilson. Standout performances. Every once in a while, George Clooney stars in a movie that feels very meta. I remember when Jason Reitman came out with Up in the Air, and many people viewed that movie as social commentary on Clooney at the time being viewed as a bachelor. And in J. Kelly, he's playing a major movie star, and it's impossible not to watch this movie and not think about Clooney's own star status. In both cases, Clooney himself not be like any of these two characters, Ryan Bingham in Up in the Air and J. Kelly and J. Kelly, but some will perceive that he is these two characters. Now here's a major difference between those two movies. Most people thought that Clooney was the perfect choice to lead Up in the Air, and the reactions to him and J. Kelly are way more mixed. On paper, he's the right choice to play this character, and for me, he's very good in it, but this is not a top-tier George Clooney performance. This isn't like Up in the Air or Michael Clayton, and for the movie to be considered great, I think the best thing about the movie J. Kelly has to be the character of J. Kelly, and I don't think that's the case. Where I land with Clooney in this movie is he's just really good. He's not great. I remember first reading about this movie online, and there were whispers that George Clooney's Ocean's 11 co-star Brad Pitt was going to be the star of this movie with Adam Sandler, and I hate to say it, I think the version of this movie that has Brad Pitt would be a better movie than the one that stars George Clooney. And I will bring up my own personal bias. I am a huge fan of Brad Pitt. He is arguably my favorite actor ever. I just think he is better at doing the movie star thing of playing somebody who would be a movie star. And what I mean by that is I think Brad Pitt would have brought more of himself to the role than George Clooney does. Like, there's a real distance between how I perceive George Clooney and this character of J. Kelly, and I think with Brad Pitt, you would have seen more of the similarities between the two. Like, I think Brad Pitt would have been more of himself in this movie, and that's what Brad Pitt does. That's what the magic of a movie like Moneyball is. He's not like anything like the general manager of the Oakland A's, Billy Beane. But what makes that movie special is you can feel Brad Pitt kind of playing himself in that movie. And I don't mean that as a diss. I mean it as the ultimate respect. He knows how to turn up the movie star charm in a way that George Clooney is a little reluctant to do. So who exactly is George Clooney's J. Kelly? He's a major movie star who is reevaluating his life choices, including his relationships with his two daughters, Jessica, played by Riley Keough, and Daisy, played by Grace Edwards. The last thing I'll say about Clooney in this movie, and don't get me wrong, I love him as an actor, I just don't think the movie J. Kelly plays to his strengths as a performer. I think George Clooney is at his best when he's playing dumb guys, like in the movies he's made with the Coen brothers. And one of the reasons those other movies work really well, like Up in the Air and Michael Clayton, is because there are other factors to those movies. J. Kelly is all about the character of J. Kelly. So if that does not completely land for you, you're not going to love this movie. Adam Sandler gave one of the best performances of his career in Noah Baumbach's The Meyerowitz Stories as Danny, a man always trying to impress his father and siblings. So it was a big deal that the actor was working with Baumbach again on J. Kelly, playing the actor's manager Ron, who throughout the movie is thinking about his own relationship with Kelly, and that part of the movie worked on me and weirdly reminded me of Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere, as both movies investigated the dynamics between artists and their representation. 2025 ended up being a big year for Adam Sandler because he not only had Jay Kelly, he had Happy Gilmore too, which I think was a success. And finally, you have Billy Crudup, who many believe gives the best performance in Jay Kelly. He's got one crucial scene as Tim, an old friend of Jay's from acting school, and many seem surprised by Crudup in this movie. I get it. Right now, he's best known for The Morning Show, but before that, he established himself as a brilliant scene stealer in 2009's Public Enemies from Michael Mann, playing the infamous director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, 2015 Spotlight playing lawyer Eric McLeish, Jackie playing a journalist interviewing Jackie Kennedy, 20th Century Woman playing William, a tenant of Annette Bening's Dorothea, both in 2016. These movies, along with Jay Kelly, use Crudup in a similar way. He starts these films as one thing and morphs into something else. Take Spotlight, for example. The first time you watch the movie, you think he's a sleazy guy, but there's a scene where he confronts the Globe reporters that makes you change how you feel about the character. And I won't spoil Jay Kelly, but when you first see him, he appears to be an old buddy of Jay's who just wants to catch up, but that does not end up being the case. Noah Baumbach is one of my favorite writer-directors. He's one of the reasons I love watching movies. The Squid and the Whale, Francis Ha, the super underrated While We're Young, the Meyerowitz Stories and Marriage Story are among my favorite movies. He's one of the best writers of dialogue, and for me, the two movies he's made after the big success of Marriage Story are very good movies. They are well made. I'm talking about White Noise, the adaptation of the novel, and the movie I'm here to talk about today, Jay Kelly. Both movies are more ambitious than his other films, which are mostly just people talking in rooms. I admire White Noise and Jay Kelly more than I like them. They are just not as contained as I would like them to be. My biggest issue with Jay Kelly is that it lets its leading character off the hook. It admits this is a guy who has selfishly picked his career over any personal relationships, but then the end of the film, which I won't spoil, feels weirdly judgmental towards the character. And yes, you could say that what the movie is getting at is that this is an impossible question to ask. Was this man's career all worth it? That is a tough question. But if you are going to make a movie about that subject matter, you have to pick a side. Baumbach kind of wants it both ways. He wants to tell you that this man regrets the fact that his family is not really in his life, but then he is still celebrating the fact that he made these movies in the first place. One criticism I've heard is that Noah Baumbach has gone soft, and I've heard this from multiple critics reviewing this movie, and I don't feel that way. I mean, this is a writer-director who has gone after characters like this in the past. Jeff Daniels' Bernard in The Squid and the Whale, Dustin Hoffman's Harold in the Meyerowitz Stories. What I see in Jay Kelly is someone who does love movies in Baumbach and has worked with movie stars, which possibly makes him more sympathetic towards them. I also feel like maybe he found it hard to come up with a sad ending for a character named Jay Kelly in the movie Jay Kelly. A better way of putting it is, this is a movie that does not pick a lane. It's not as funny as it should be. It's not as bleak as it should be. It's just kind of all over the place. Something you just don't expect from a movie written and directed by Noah Baumbach. And I take absolutely no delight being somewhat critical of this movie. I mean, I am in the bag for this writer-director. Like I said earlier, he's made some of my favorite movies. He's co-written Barbie. He's co-written Fantastic Mr. Fox. I mean, this is one of the best writers working in Hollywood. I was very very much intrigued by the idea of him working with George Clooney because Baumbach does not really have a history of working with major stars outside of guys like Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler. And one thought I'm really having while doing this podcast is I think the movie Jay Kelly maybe would have worked more if a guy like Ben Stiller played Jay Kelly. At the end of the day, I really don't think George Clooney was all that interested in exploring his own mythos as a movie star. And I get why. I mean, you watch this movie and you don't want to be compared to Jay Kelly, but you are George Clooney. Bring a little bit more of yourself to the role, please. Another thought I've had is maybe this would have worked more 10 years ago with George Clooney. Like, he just doesn't seem to be in the right place in his career to play this type of character. I mean, he hasn't been in a lot of movies lately, and the ones he has been in have been more popcorn fare. I guess what I'm getting at is I don't know if my problem with this movie is George Clooney or the character of Jay Kelly himself. Like I'm saying, fix the movie by having Brad Pitt in it. Fix the movie by having Ben Stiller in it. I don't know if that character is fixable or not. My issue is the character is just a blank avatar and a stereotype of what we perceive a movie star to be. I'm not the first person to say this about Noah Baumbach, but one of the things I love about his movies is you watch them and you go, yes, I can relate to that. I've met a guy like that in real life. I've been in this situation. This is something that makes me feel something, and that is severely lacking in the film Jay Kelly. Maybe that's the danger of making a movie about a giant movie star, is very few people know what that is like, so you need to ground him in some kind of reality that will make me, the audience, go, yes, I can relate to this guy. At no point in watching the movie Jay Kelly, I went to myself, yes, this is a guy who is very relatable. We all relate to the Ron character more, and maybe that's on purpose, but I think that's a problem. The movie is called Jay Kelly. You have to have something insightful and interesting to say about your leading character. Maybe the harshest thing I have to say about this movie is Jay Kelly does not feel like a real person. Oscar chances, despite what I've said on this podcast, there is some talk that George Clooney could get a nomination for Best Leading Actor. I don't think it's going to happen, but I can't count it out because he is George Clooney. He is working with a major director. He's making a movie about movie making. I won't go as far to say he's bad in this movie, but this is not a top 10, quite possibly a top 15 George Clooney performance. This is not what I want from George Clooney. This is not the type of role I want George Clooney to play. The one acting nomination from this movie that I think is going to happen is Adam Sandler in Best Supporting Actor. The hype has been around him for a few years now after Uncut Gems and Hustle. People want to see Adam Sandler get his first ever Oscar nomination, and I think this is the year it's going to happen, and I'm not mad about it. I don't think this is one of the best Adam Sandler performances ever, but this is where we're at, and this is the issue with the Oscars, is they usually nominate an actor for the wrong movie. He should have gotten nominated for Punch Drunk Love. He should have been nominated for Funny People. He should have been nominated for The Meyerowitz Stories, and absolutely he should have been nominated for Uncut Gems and Hustle. Those would have been far better picks than Jay Kelly, a movie that I believe most people will forget in 4 to 5 years. Unlike the way that people are still talking about Uncut Gems. The Oscars are just not very good at predicting the future, and maybe they're just not interested in predicting the future. I think they should be interested in predicting what movies are going to live on. I like Jay Kelly. I will admit it, but I don't love Jay Kelly. I'm not going to be thinking about Jay Kelly in 4 to 5 years the way I still am about Uncut Gems, or even Hustle for that matter. Baumbach has a 0% chance of getting nominated for Best Director. That's a stacked category. But could I see him getting a nomination for the screenplay? Absolutely, because he he's Noah Baumbach. Do I think the script of Jay Kelly is great? I do not. The last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Oscars and Jay Kelly is Billy Crudup, because so many people are bringing up the fact that they think he gives the best performance in this movie, and some are thinking that he has a chance of getting a nomination. I believe this is the type of performance that should be a best supporting performance in a movie, a one-scene scene stealer. In recent years, the Academy has not nominated these kinds of performances. Brian Tyree Henry in If Beale Street Could Talk, Bradley Cooper in Licorice Pizza, Jesse Plemons in Civil War, all should have gotten Oscar nominations for Best Supporting Actor, but were completely ignored. They want people who are in the movie a lot. They want people who have more screen time in the movies to get nominated. For that reason, and that reason alone, Billy Crudup is not going to get a Best Supporting Actor nom. So what exactly do I want from Noah Baumbach moving forward? I want him to make great family dramas. That is what I want from Noah Baumbach. That is the type of film that he makes that I go, nobody else is capable of making movies like these. Movies about regular people. The key difference between this and Marriage Story is about a topic, divorce. The movie Jay Kelly is about a guy in Jay Kelly, someone I'm not that interested in. And I don't know why you use past collaborators like Greta Gerwig and Laura Dern and then give them absolutely nothing to do in this movie. I know some people are high on Laura Dern in this movie, but comparing it to what she does in Marriage Story is completely insane. The elements of this movie that work best for me is the dynamic between George Clooney's Jay Kelly and Adam Sandler's Ron, and then I would have made Riley Keough's Jessica a main character in the movie. In this, she's a little bit more than a subplot. I liked the fact that Baumbach was working with an actor, a megastar he's never worked with before, in George Clooney. But I'm going to be honest, I want him to work with the guys he's been working with a lot. I want to see a Noah Baumbach movie starring Adam Driver, Ben Stiller, Greta Gerwig. Those are the names I want to see moving forward. He is one of those writer-directors who can work with the same people over and over again and get something new and fresh out of them. And before he's done making movies, can we please get another Noah Baumbach movie starring Jeff Daniels? I mean, he's never been better in that. Amanda Seyfried is another example. She's never been better than in the Noah Baumbach movie, While We're Young. I'd love to see her work with the writer-director again. Those are actors who really fit in well with what Baumbach was going for in those particular movies. Where I land with Clooney and Jay Kelly is, he's just not the right choice to play Jay Kelly. If the movie were more comedic, he could have nailed it, but it's not. And I always like to preface these reviews on this podcast by saying this. I have only seen this movie one time. Maybe it is a movie I'll watch again and it will grow on me. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I have strong feelings about this movie, and a lot of it is just not that positive. I think it's an okay movie that just needed to pick one theme and one tone specifically, because that is what Noah Baumbach is so good at, being precise. There are many people who feel the way I do about the movie Jay Kelly, and then there are some people acting like this is a giant comeback from the disaster that was White Noise, and even Baumbach himself is kind of down on this movie. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I'm going to say it. I like the movie White Noise more than I like the movie Jay Kelly. White Noise felt like it was fully committed to a specific tone, while Jay Kelly was just all over the place. No one wanted to love Jay Kelly more than me, and sadly, I just did not love this movie. I find it very hard to be critical of this writer-director that I love. I think Noah Baumbach is one of the best writer-directors of our time. And because of that, I hold him to very high standards. And I wasn't trying to dunk on him in this podcast and say that I'm no longer a fan. I still think very highly of Noah Baumbach, and I will be there the next time he writes and directs a movie. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I recommend you watch Jay Kelly. Next week on the podcast, I talk about the film Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery starring Daniel Craig, Josh O'Connor, Josh Brolin, Glenn Close, Mila Kunis, Andrew Scott, Jeremy Renner, Kaylee Spaney, Kerry Washington, Daryl McCormick, and Thomas Hayden Church, written and directed by Ryan Johnson. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.